As soon as Robert Mueller was appointed special counsel in the Russia investigation, politicians rushed to cover him with a blanket of invincibility.
Senator, tell us, have you seen anything in this investigation so far that would suggest that Robert Mueller has a conflict?
No, I haven't. I sit on the Judiciary Committee along with Chris or Senator Coons, and I have not seen any evidence to suggest that.
I do not at all believe that that Mr. Mueller's has been compromised or his investigation. I think he's beyond reproach.
I have a lot of admiration and respect for Director Mueller.
You've got somebody who, by all accounts, is an independent person, somebody who's got lots of integrity.
He enjoys very broad support in the Senate, both among Republicans and Democrats, because of his long service as the FBI director, because of his record of respectable leadership as a senior federal prosecutor.
Well, in other words, President Trump, don't you dare even think about coming close, even sort of maybe kind of firing Mueller. Well, a few months later, Congress rushed in to propose legislation to insulate the special counsel from executive branch interference or termination. Republican pro-amnesty Senator Thom Tillis, along with liberal Delaware Senator Chris Coons, introduced a bill that would allow Mueller to challenge any removal in court. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham and Cory Booker, Wonder Twin powers activate, they went even further. They sponsored a bill that would prevent the firing of Mueller. Apparently, he's so perfect, he can never be fired. Well, Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee were properly skeptical about the constitutionality of any such moves such as that. Remember, Mueller works for the executive branch after all. So I have a question. Why can't all federal employees challenge their firing? Well, of course, this would be absurd. Now, setting aside whether it would be politically smart for President Trump to fire Mueller, and it wouldn't be smart, he is the head of the executive branch, and Congress has no business interfering with either the firing or the hiring decisions of the executive branch. All they have is the confirmation process for Senate confirmation. Otherwise, stay out of the business. So my question is, why were these senators so eager to build up Mueller and his team? And they were so eager to insulate them from executive branch oversight and ultimately perhaps termination. Well, thank God we have diligent congressmen who do take their oversight responsibility seriously. I'm talking about Congressman Devin Nunes, Matt Gaetz, Trey Gowdy, Robert Goodlatte, and Peter King, who will join us in just a few moments. You don't want to miss this segment. Their determination to see that this investigation doesn't turn into some kind of star chamber, I mean, it's already turned up incredible things so far. Missing or discussed thumb drives, talk of deleting text messages, talk of creating insurance policies against Trump, maybe even secret societies in the FBI, meetings convened outside of the FBI, and, of course, all those missing texts that they may or may not be reconstructing. And by the way, speaking of these texts between Peter Strzok and his gal pal Lisa Page, we heard this today from the DOJ spokeswoman.
There were just over 50,000 text messages between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok during the time period that the Inspector General is investigating. And what we also know is that for about a 5-month period, those text messages never got into the FBI server. Obviously, we are reviewing immediately how they didn't get into the server in the first place.
First of all, who has anything that much to say to anyone that would account for 50,000 texts? I mean, they must have really had a hop-in relationship. There are reports, by the way, that glitch that she referenced may have affected 35,000 FBI employees and all their cell phones, different from what we heard a few days ago. But whatever the case, it prompts more questions now just about the basic competency of the FBI. Oh, sorry, or are we not even allowed to wonder what else Peter Strzok and Lisa Page said to each other about Trump, Flynn, Comey, and maybe even the old Hillary email investigation? I'm sure it wasn't all 50,000 texts of sweet nothings. Well, by the way, I've noticed a pattern here. Maybe you have as well. The more we learn and the closer Congress gets to the truth, some of this underlying evidence, the more vicious the media attacks on those people who are seeking answers.
Meetings off-site, secret society, anything you can tell me without having to kill me?
This is nonsense. It's just complete nonsense. You're telling me that that law enforcement agency is treating people unequally because they have a political vendetta? If you're going to tell the American people that, that's what happens in third world dictatorships. That doesn't happen here.
Republicans are talking about this secret society inside the FBI. They sound like crackpots.
They're going to rue the day of going down this road and having this institution come apart and sullied and have the kind of morale problems that could be long-lasting down the road. And then who are they going to look to?
Well, certainly not to the head of the RNC, who's trashing the current president of the United States. Well, I'm just glad that Democrats are finally supporting law enforcement. The FBI, you can never question them. Let's look back now. For years, the left has indulged groups like Black Lives Matter, the ACLU, and CARE, who reflexively impugn the integrity and character of police anytime somebody captures one of those unpleasant cell phone videos. The police are too aggressive, they're racist, they're anti-Muslim, you know the drill. But now that Mueller, of course, it's state versus federal, but Mueller is targeting Trump, oh boy, law enforcement, you can't question them. They can't do any wrong. They should never be fired. Hell, they shouldn't even be questioned. Now, one would think that the media, some in the media, would have a little bit of curiosity about, I don't know, the conflicts of interest in the special counsel's office. If they distrust law enforcement and investigators on the state level so often, why do the feds get a pass? Well, there is, without a doubt, a deep-seated animus, and that's putting it mildly, toward the president by key members of the Mueller investigative team. And rather than confront the growing evidence, the left, well, they pull a Saul Alinsky and they start demonizing members of Congress and anyone, frankly, anyone, who dares to question the methods and the motives of the Obama Justice Department and now the Mueller gang. The black cloud that hangs over this Russian investigation, let me tell you this, it wasn't created by Fox News. It certainly wasn't created by talk radio. I mean, none of us hired Jeannie Rhee, who previously worked for the Clinton Foundation and represented Obama's national security advisor, Ben Rhodes. And I'll tell you this, Fox News and talk radio did not appoint Andrew Weissman as lead prosecutor. A Democratic donor, remember, who we praised Sally Yates in that letter when she was fired by the president? And I don't think Fox News and talk radio appointed Peter Strzok either. I'll tell you this. No amount of scapegoating is going to make this any better. Now, Robert Mueller could be the greatest guy, the smartest guy ever, but if the man cannot oversee his own team and remove the partisans, then you have to conclude he's either in over his head or he's just not good for this role or he's negligent in this duty. And that will compromise the ultimate findings of this investigation, whatever they may be. Now, I also want to say this. Trump's team made some mistakes early on. I do not think, and I've said this before, it was smart to fire Jim Comey when they did. And it wasn't wise to talk to Lester Holt about the decision to fire Jim Comey. And if the story is true, well, I probably would not have asked acting FBI Director McCabe how he voted in the election. I wouldn't have done that either. The president has to be extra mindful, given the fact that he had already ticked off the intel community with his promise of reforms and, of course, some of his criticisms. So you kick that deep state hornet's nest and you're liable to get stung really bad. Well, today, the president told reporters, hey, I'm happy to talk to Mueller.
Are you going to talk to Mueller?
I'm looking forward to it, actually.
You want to?
You have a date set? Here's the story, just so you understand. There's been no collusion whatsoever. There's no obstruction whatsoever. And I'm looking forward to it. I would love to do that, and I'd like to do it as soon as possible.
It's a voluntary interview.
Listen,
you would.
But I would do it.
Well, I was listening to that audio. He sure seems like he has nothing to hide. And the president appears ready and willing to be held up to scrutiny by the Mueller team. He wants to clear his name. But what about the men and women who are doing the scrutinizing? Who's going to hold them accountable? No one should be above the law. Not the president, not Hillary Clinton, and not the special counsel's team. And that's the angle.